all so much for being here. We certainly appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedules and busy lives to be with us in New York. Hopefully it's been a good day. I did hear that folks were pretty excited to hear about our roadmap. So I have a ton of information to throw at you today that I think will be quite exciting. We'll share some more recent updates as well as some more strategic long-term things that you'll see us invest in over the coming months and quarters. My name is Lindsay Edwards. I head up product for Connected Enterprise at LinkedIn. And when I was asked to talk to you all today, I was really genuinely excited. I think 4 years ago when I joined LinkedIn, we didn't necessarily think very much about the student community or education or higher education. It was a facet on the profile that was an important one and would grow with importance. But that changed, and I'll talk later about how and when and why that strategy changed. But as a LinkedIn employee, I was really excited with the investment that we were going to make over time in this category. I think education is something that I hold really close to my heart and has played a meaningful part in my life. So I'm going to kick it off with a little bit of a story, a personal story. And we're going to go all the way back to 1978 to kick off this story. So in 1978, my mom, who was 27 years old at the time, decided to open her own small business, a women's clothing store in a small town in the Central Valley in California. And if you asked her now, she would tell you she has no idea what she was thinking, that she had no idea how she was going to run this business over time, but she was passionate about it, and it was something that she wanted to do. So she and my grandma and later my aunt started the business. And I've never owned my own small business, but I certainly was raised in the store, and it was my first job in high school, and so I got to see what it was like. And it's hard, right? A lot of people do it, a lot of people try and fail. Actually, more fail than don't fail. And starting a business in the late 70s, one of those things that's so hard about it is that it's scary and it's uncertain, and so many factors are out of your control, and namely the economy. So starting a business in the late 70s, they were, of course, going to hit a global recession just a few years into their small business ownership. And it was scary, and they had to hunker down and try to survive, and luckily they did, and they would hit a couple more over time. But it was a scary process, and each time they would hit those hard times, she'd be worried. Am I going to lose my job? Am I going to lose my store? Am I going to lose my livelihood, my income? And part of that fear was made even worse by the fact that she didn't have a college education. So she didn't know if the skills that she had gained were going to be transferable to a quote unquote normal job, or if she'd even get her resume in the door for a job because she didn't have that degree. She couldn't check that box. So she told my sister and I growing up, you will go to college and you will get that degree. And she said, after that, you follow your passions. If that's joining the circus, then I'll be there and I'll be your biggest fan and supporter. But you won't have to live in fear of not having those doors open and not having the opportunities because you don't have a degree. So it's something both my sister and I went on to get degrees. My sister, a master's degree. And I have to say, doors have constantly been opened in my life, and I'm so grateful for that advice and for all the people that make that happen, and excited that LinkedIn is venturing into this space and helping our members invest and open doors in their lives. And to all you here in the room that spend your careers doing that, I just think it's an amazing thing. So we'll talk again later about how and a little bit about why LinkedIn got into, an area where we really wanted to focus on students and education. But now we have pretty big teams that spend a lot of time thinking about this world and this ecosystem. And so what we see is 5 things really that we see shaping the future of education. The first, and again, a little bit to my story there, is that the less educated are being left behind. In about the last 10 years, 99% of the job growth in the United States has been for those with at least 4 years of college education and a degree, where there's been 0% job growth. In fact, there's been a decline in jobs available for those that only have high school education. And just to tell that story even more clearly, what you can see here is the bright blue line on the top of the screen here again, this is US-based data, folks that have at least that 4 years of college education. And we hit a little bit of a mini recession right around early 2008. Certainly living in San Francisco, you all of a sudden felt like that tech bubble was no longer a bubble. It may not have popped altogether, but it certainly, you started to hear about some of the hottest tech companies laying off folks. And it got a little bit scary. Was it going to be more like the late 90s where there was much more significant decline? But even with this mini recession, you can see there was actually never any job loss for those with college educations. In fact, there were job gains in terms of the jobs out there and available to folks. The middle line you can see there is those folks with some college education or an associate's degree. There was definitely a loss there of nearly 2 million jobs right when that recession hit. Luckily, it did recover, but you don't see any significant growth there. And in the bottom, of course, a super clear story here, almost 6 million jobs lost for those with only a high school education, and there hasn't been a recovery. So even though the economy has recovered, even though things are feeling better, I think, as Americans, you don't see the opportunity and the growth there. So huge story here. Another trend and theme we see shaping the future of education is affordability. And again, this is another one that hits pretty close to home for me. Going into my undergrad program, I did pay for college myself, and so I borrowed a lot of money. And when you're a 17-year-old, these numbers feel, astronomical. How am I ever going to pay this back? How am I ever, I'm going to be old and gray and still trying to pay this college debt off, which, of course, isn't usually the case, but it's really hard to tell your 17-year-old self that, and that it's going to be okay, and that you're doing this to get the job where you're making lots of money so you can pay this back. But on average, students that are borrowing are now borrowing almost $40,000 and coming out of college with that debt hanging over their head. Of course, that debt gets bigger as you think about post-secondary education. Another stats that I'll throw at you here that, again, I had no idea coming into this event that shocked me is that student debt has now hit over the $1 trillion mark, which is a pretty scary number, and that dollar figure is actually bigger than all credit card debt combined in the United States. So this is something that is going to be top of mind, that's getting a lot of news. In fact, you can see here with a headline in the Wall Street Journal, part of the nation being aware of this accumulation of debt means that the government is asking you in the room, universities, to be more accountable and responsible for sending your graduates out in the marketplace ready to be employed and ready and able to pay off that debt. So a lot going on here that I think we're going to continue to see this story grow and things happening to try to figure out how to get it under control. Another trend here we see, and again, we have pretty unique data at LinkedIn to paint the picture of what your average student looks like now. And 3/4 of all students are now both in college and working, whether that be part-time or full-time on either side. So this is a very different type of student than 20 or 30 years ago, what the picture likely looked like. And what this means is that there needs to be much more flexibility in schedules. Technology plays a huge component here for folks that are trying to both continue to invest in themselves or their career or working to try to fund college and also wanting to get that education on the side. And then lastly here, while online enrollment is growing, total enrollment is dropping. So we'll talk a little bit later about some of the things LinkedIn is doing on the online learning side, and I'll get into more detail here, but just an interesting place to be in a trend that I do think is going to keep expanding and being a more significant part of the overall picture. So it's a challenging world for education marketers, as you all in the room likely know. I don't need to tell you. But I think, I feel like a little bit like the Grim Reaper. It's not all bad. I think, Albert Einstein once said, in the middle of difficulty lies opportunity. So while 58% of admissions directors did not meet their goals in 2015, we're still seeing this trend where you need an education in order to be eligible for the jobs, or certainly the jobs people are wanting. So there's sort of a mismatch there, and I think we need to figure out as a community how to bring it all together. So how LinkedIn can help. So I mentioned, LinkedIn has not always been super invested in this space. When I started 4 years ago, it wasn't something we talked a lot about. But I think we now are seriously in this place. In fact, there was a major press event this morning in San Francisco where we talked about the Lynda acquisition and some online learning, and it's something that we're just continuing to think about and invest in. Our mission at LinkedIn is to connect the world's professionals to make them more productive and successful. And now that we see that nearly 3/4 of students are both, investing in their professional career and also learning and wanting to further their education on the side, I think we really can bring together a unique message here. We do have the largest community of professionals in the world. We are going to hit 500 million members here in pretty short order, which is of course exciting for us, but I think maybe more relevant for the folks in the room, that 50 million number. So we currently have 50 million members that are either active students or recent grads, which again is a very different makeup than we saw 4 years ago. So given that we have this community of professionals and this information, I think we can uniquely allow marketers, particularly education marketers, to reach quality folks. And by quality, in product management, we measure that based on a number. We qualify every profile with a score. And that score has everything to do with how complete your profile is, what type of things you track, how often you update it. We use algorithms and computers and calculate the score. And so over time, we are continuously investing in how do we make sure that we have the most quality profiles possible. Mindset, I think this is something that we talk a lot about, but all of you, I think, can probably relate to, which is my mindset when I'm on Instagram or Facebook versus LinkedIn. And generally, when I need a break from reality, I'll check in on Facebook or Instagram, see what people are up to. I'm at that place in my life where 3/4 of my feed is weddings and babies, so you're checking out who got married and what did they wear and who had a baby. But when I go to LinkedIn, I'm investing in myself. I'm investing in my career. I'm investing in my network. I'm checking out content that's relevant to my career or where I work. And so I'm investing that time uniquely, which I think plays a big role into what your opportunity is on LinkedIn. And then I think, again, sort of uniquely, we really are in a place now where we LinkedIn, where we weren't always, at being able to track a student's entire journey and career over time. And so I'll tell you a quick story here. So 4 years ago, I was brand new at LinkedIn. There was a lot of things changing because we were just sort of exploding from in a lot of really great ways, both in terms of number of employees and the number of things we were focusing on, the businesses that we were going to be in. But one thing was happening that we weren't entirely sure about, and that is that the average new member, the average new person coming into LinkedIn and signing up, and we were about 100 million members at the time, was getting younger and younger, significantly younger. And we weren't really sure why or what to do about it. In fact, to the point where we didn't really have policies for people under 18 being on LinkedIn, which you should have a full set of guidelines and policies, but no one had shown up that was under 18 and expressed any interest before. So we had to catch up on a lot of things as it relates to our policies. But one of the things that we did is we had a group of user researchers who really wanted to dig in and understand why are these young people coming to LinkedIn, right? They don't necessarily have a resume yet. They may have had a part-time job. They may have never had a job. They don't have a professional network yet. So what is it that's making them to come to LinkedIn and think that they need a profile? So we brought a group of high school students in to our Mountain View campus. And we have very fancy user research labs. We're sitting behind the two-way mirror. And your user researcher is talking. And there was one gentleman in general that I will never forget. He was 17 years old. He went to high school in Menlo Park in California. And so the user researchers ask him a bunch of questions. How are you thinking about college? Where are you getting information about what college you may want to go to? Have you had part-time jobs? Just, all the basics. And then she asked him, do you know LinkedIn? And he's like, yeah, I've heard of LinkedIn. And she was trying to drag a little more information out of him. So she said, well, what do you think about LinkedIn? And he's like, well, I don't know. I think it's like Facebook for old people, which obviously got a laugh from all of us in the room as well. Although you quickly realize you're one of those old people he's talking about. And be careful what you wish for, because if you asked my 14-year-old nephew, he would say, if you asked him about Facebook, he would say Snapchat for old people. So things change really, really quickly. But I think we saw our membership growing and expanding, and younger people being interested in being members. So we made a very deliberate choice to invest in this community and this ecosystem. At the time, we called it a venture bet, which we do a couple of venture bets every year at LinkedIn, where teams get funded. They get engineers and product managers and teams to go off and build something that may or may not be successful, because we didn't really know yet. But that team, of course, has been incredibly successful and has only expanded. They're well beyond their venture bet status. So we started building. We started building products and tools and assets and thinking about this user and this persona in a different way. And I think it's been really exciting to see what we've done and will continue to do. And I think the other unique thing about the assets we have and the network we have is that it's not specialized. I think we have a little bit for everyone and can reach a lot of different audiences in a unique way. So how LinkedIn helps higher ed today? As we talked about, we have a pretty unique audience, and we know a lot about our audience. I think many people now, myself included, I don't have a resume anymore. I don't have a Word document that I can go pull up and that's up to date, but my LinkedIn profile is always up to date. So we have this powerful data set for almost 500 million members, and you can get as narrow as you want to get down to the specifics and focus on who's your ideal audience on LinkedIn, who are you trying to target and reach. And then we also made, this wasn't as much a venture bet as just, I think we went full steam and all in on content. It wasn't that long ago that you really only went to LinkedIn when you were looking for a job, right? Or maybe thinking about looking for a job, or wanted to check out who in your network had gotten a job or what was happening with them. But we took a pivot and decided to invest in content. We wanted people to come to LinkedIn to see content that was relevant for them, relevant for their career, relevant for what they wanted to do next in their career. And it's been amazingly successful. I think it sort of changed the way that we think about building and growing LinkedIn. And then optimize. I think we have a unique view into our audience because of how much we know about them that can give you information to help optimize the time and the money that you're investing with LinkedIn. So we'll start off with sponsored content. So sponsored content launched in July of 2013. It was actually the first product that I worked on at LinkedIn. At the time, frankly, everyone seemed to think it was like the biggest deal in the world, and I didn't get it. I didn't come from an advertising background. Putting an ad in the feed seemed interesting, but the rest is history. It's become the fastest growing product in LinkedIn history, and just continues to grow and expand and offer more opportunities for marketers to reach users in new ways. And I think there's a lot of reasons why it's been successful. One is that there's really 4 places on LinkedIn that our members spend the vast majority of their time. So when they're on LinkedIn, they're usually doing one of these 4 things. Not that there isn't a long tail of other things. But the first is that they go to their own profile, and they may be going there to update it. They may be going to check it out. They may be looking at stats for how they're doing versus their other coworkers. They looked at who's viewed their profile, which is one of our most popular features of all time. They go to their inbox, so they may be messaging or checking out messages, whether that's messaging coworkers or messaging contacts or messaging recruiters is a big one. And then the last one is the feed, right? And that's really, those are not in order. People spend the majority of time in the feed. So by being able to surface super relevant content to a specific audience in the feed, it didn't feel like an ad anymore. And the performance of this product, certainly spoke to that. Sponsored email, hopefully you all in the room know sponsored email. I think another very unique way to reach members in a highly targeted way, and you can be personalized. It feels like a personalized message that's meant for you as a member, and lots of opportunities with sponsored email to reach audiences in a unique way, both on desktop and on mobile. Our campaign manager tools. So again, for those of you who are familiar with our products, you've likely been in our campaign management tool. It underwent a pretty major facelift about a year or so ago. You will see another one of those coming. That looks really good. I saw the designs recently. So more to come there, and just making it faster and easier to use our campaign management tools. LinkedIn Learning. So there was, I mentioned earlier, there was a major announcement this morning. They did a pretty significant press event in San Francisco just about an hour and a half or 2 hours ago. So you may see some of this news hitting the wire real time. But we officially launched LinkedIn Learning, which is sort of the outcome of our acquisition of Lynda about a year ago. I was among those that when I heard about the acquisition of Lynda, we don't know either when these acquisitions happen, what's this going to be? What's going to come of this? And I think in some ways it made so much sense, right? We are trying to make people more successful, and continuously learning is something, learning new skills and learning things that are going to make you good at your job today or in your next step in your career is something that we've always been interested in empowering our members to be. But I wasn't sure exactly how this was going to fit in, how is this going to work? And so you'll see with the news that was launched, or the news that came out earlier today, there's really 2 pieces here. There's learning for the consumer. So I'm just on LinkedIn. I am now, in my new role, having to use spreadsheets way more than I ever have before, and I just want to take a quick, fresh up from college to make sure that my Excel skills are up to speed, and really good for those sort of transactional learning pieces. The other is a LinkedIn Learning Enterprise offering that I think is going to be really big and really exciting for companies that want to empower their employees to always be learning. And so lots more to come on the LinkedIn Learning front as we see, this new age of learning coming into light in LinkedIn as a result of the acquisition. LinkedIn Students app. So another pretty recent launch from our, actually out of our talent solutions business. And this is unique and interesting because it's so highly targeted at students. So when you think about students, rewinding back to when most of our member base were folks that already had established careers, already had established networks. So they used LinkedIn in a very specific way where they'd be searching for companies they already knew they were interested in, or searching for people that they already knew they were connected to or wanted to be connected to. But when you're a student, you don't have any of that yet, right? You don't have those affiliations, you don't have that resume, you don't have those connections. So the LinkedIn Students app is all about proactively offering students information to guide them of how to use and how to build and how to find the jobs that are going to be most interested and most closely tied to what they're interested in. So you can see, again, sort of the proactive notifying and pushing students and guiding them along the way rather than asking them to come to LinkedIn and figure it out on their own. Alumni tool, again, I hope you guys are all already familiar with this. But it's pretty cool information. I was checking out the latest and greatest on my university before I came here today. So just a good sneak peek into what are alumni from my college doing. Where are they working? What type of industries are they working in? What type of jobs do they have? And again, just sort of that prompting and thinking about for a student or for other folks, where to even start. So now we'll move on to how LinkedIn will help higher education in the future. So again, a lot of this is a sneak peek into things that aren't available today, but you will be hearing about in a bunch more detail shortly. And as a product manager, I'd like to think that we pride ourselves, and my team, I always urge my team is listen, right? Listen to your customers, listen to your members, listen to folks that are already investing in LinkedIn and LinkedIn assets, and that will help guide your roadmap, right? We don't need to guess. We have enough of a base now where we can be led to make sure that we're investing in the right things. And the big things that we've heard about recently, particularly within the marketing part of LinkedIn, is we need to make sure that we can continuously deliver a return on your investment. And I really put that investment in two categories. Investment, means money, but it means time as much as money. And so we want to be sensitive to both of those and make sure that we are making it worthwhile for the time and any dollar investment that you're making with us. We want to further strengthen targeting. So given now this 500 million member base nearly, and all this rich information that we will continuously have and gather about our members, we want to bring unique ways, but also make sure that you have any way that at your disposal to reach the right members and prospects that matter to you. Better measurement and optimization, another critical thing that I'll talk about, as well as simplifying your experience. So first, let's start with ROI. So we talked about sponsored content before, again, the fastest growing product in LinkedIn history, but because of, and the most exciting part about it was that it was in the news feed, right? But because it was in the news feed, we are automatically limited about how much is available, right? We try to be incredibly sensitive to the member experience, particularly as it relates to ads. We never want to bombard or have our users feel like there's ads all over LinkedIn or ads in the feed. And I think we do a good job of this. I mean, when I talk to people I know and they ask me what I do, they say, oh, I don't even notice ads on LinkedIn. Well, of course, that's music to our ears. That's exactly what we're going after. You all know and have been on sites where there's ads popping up and you're trying to get them to go away and you can't get them to go away. It's an awful experience, and we never want to have that be the perception of our members when they're on LinkedIn and investing in themselves and in their career. But because we're limited to the news feed and we'll only put one sponsored update every 20 or 25 slots in the feed, we don't ever want it to be more than that, then it somewhat limits our opportunities. So we just recently started serving sponsored updates off LinkedIn.com. And the good thing about this is that you can use the best of our targeting. You still get to the right audience, but off LinkedIn.com. And of course, we are incredibly sensitive to the sites that we will ever partner with to bring this to life. We want that professional mindset. We want the same idea, and early results are incredibly strong here. In-ad lead gen. So some of you may have used a product called Oneclick lead gen. I think it's been about 2.5 years ago that we piloted this product with sponsored in-mail. It took us a while, but it's back now. We heard that you wanted it back, and it may have taken us a little longer than we wanted it to. But it is launching with both sponsored updates and sponsored in-mail over the next 3 or 6 months or so. Incredibly powerful tool, and we saw how well it worked, and certainly heard the unhappiness when we didn't bring it into the new sponsored in-mail product. So much of trying to reach prospects on LinkedIn is about getting them to appreciate your content, hopefully click on it, and then come to a site, give them some more information, and fill out a form. We know all along in the way there, the drop-off is massive in terms of getting the results that you're looking for. So this very uniquely provides that prospect a way to say, I'm interested, I know I'm interested, I don't want to click off and read more and fill out a form. Here's my information, one click, and that information is yours to follow up with that prospect. So really powerful tool, super quick and easy for you, super quick and easy for the user. And I think there's going to be some really exciting results here, particularly for this audience. Refresh dynamic ads. So, we've always struggled a little bit with the classic display product, right? The 300 by 250. It's the thing that does stick out a little bit like a sore thumb in LinkedIn. You can't, it's not integrated into the feed. It's not integrated into the inbox. Frankly, as a product manager, I fight with the page owners every day to get those ads to stay on the page because they want to rip them off every page. So it's just a bit of an ongoing exercise to keep display ads or traditional display ads on LinkedIn.com, and I understand why. But turns out when we introduce components of LinkedIn into the ad, not only does it make it blend with the page better and is less disruptive to the member experience, but performance goes off the chart. If I put your face in an ad, you're going to click on it 10 or 20 or sometimes 30 times more than a traditional ad. Who would have thought? So we've figured out some of these unique components that can be brought into an ad, and again, if it's a good experience, a better experience for the member, and performance is way up, it's a no-brainer. So you'll see us continue to invest in this dynamic ads category. Also, I would expect to see some exciting things coming with dynamic ads on mobile. So more to come there. And then autofill. So assuming one-click lead gen is only part of the strategy, then you are going to be still directing prospective students to web pages where they need to fill out a form. And filling out a form is really tough, particularly on mobile, right? It's kind of a pain, and it's frustrating, and you give up often because it's not doing what you want to, and how bad did you really want to submit your information? So it really requires the user to persevere to get that form fill complete. But with autofill, it's an easy one-click, right? One click on the autofill button, it pre-fills with your LinkedIn information. We pride ourselves at LinkedIn at having the most accurate, up-to-date information that's out there. So another powerful tool that you can put on your own website to boost conversions. Now we're going to talk a little bit about furthering our ability to target members, which is an area that I used to manage personally as a product manager. There's a team of engineers in Sunnyvale that are just phenomenal, that are constantly working up and looking at new and unique ways to target on LinkedIn. First, we'll talk about audience matching and retargeting. Some of you in the room may have heard or actually invested in the account-based marketing that we rolled out 6 months ago, 9 months ago, something like that. The ability to upload a list of companies. So if you already know which companies you're most likely, switch mics there. There we go. If you already know which companies that you're most likely to want to target within employees of companies, we made it much easier to do that at scale across thousands of companies or whatever your target list happens to be. The next generation of that is going to be audience matching with email addresses. So if you have a list of email addresses, folks that you know you want to reach on LinkedIn, you upload that list of email addresses, we match them to LinkedIn profile emails and create a custom audience for you to use just for purposes of that campaign. So exciting there. And of course, retargeting, we were a little bit late to this game, we know, but we're here now. And you can now effectively retarget visitors to websites on LinkedIn. Better measurement and optimization. So conversion tracking, speaking of being a little bit late to the game, we know we weren't the first ones out there with this, and it's been a long time coming, but most importantly, it's here now and available for sponsored updates, coming for sponsored InMail, the ability to really effectively track all the way from that view or click through the funnel and to the ultimate conversion that you're looking for. Campaign demographic reporting. So again, this is something that I would consider pretty unique to LinkedIn. The ability to really take a look at who saw your ads, who clicked on them, and then further optimize and improve your campaigns and therefore your investment over time to narrow in on that audience that you're most likely to reach effectively. Campaign insights and recommendations, another thing that's been in the works for quite some time that I'm excited to see coming out the door. We have all sorts of signals underneath the covers and behind the scenes that our engineers look at all the time, related to, what's the average bid price that a particular type of campaign is clearing at. If you would have bid a little bit more, what would have been the results? What's the average audience look like? If your audience had been bigger or smaller, what would the results have been? So this is something, we uniquely behind the scenes have been able to see on an aggregate basis, but we're now breaking that out on a campaign by campaign basis and exposing it to you, so that you'll have the ability to know, if I adjusted my campaign in this way, that would result in this. And it makes you much better at making changes and decisions about optimizing your campaign, but maybe even more importantly, makes sure that you can really, really optimize the spend and get the most out of your investment. Simplify. So we also hear loud and clear that there are parts of maintaining and campaigns on LinkedIn that are not ideal. So we want to make sure, or not just maintaining campaigns, but maintaining your presence on LinkedIn that is confusing. And so I know this is a big one, and something that you guys, many of you, have been waiting for a really, really long time. But there's sort of a reason why we ended up in this place, where we had both the university page and the company page, because the initial investment here was this startup within a startup. We really thought that there was going to be a need for a totally separate place for universities to establish and maintain a presence on LinkedIn, and that was going to be really different from the company page experience. But once we had rolled it out at scale, we of course realized maybe that wasn't the case, and maybe it was confusing for both members and for universities to maintain these two separate pages. So we have been hard at work, and the product manager who, Sparks, are you in the room somewhere? There he is with his hand up. So this is the gentleman responsible for making this happen and finally pulling it off. So please feel free to find him up at the reception or myself, and happy to give you a bunch more detail about what this means. But ultimately, our hope and what we built this around was keeping the best of both while combining to reduce confusion and reduce overhead of maintaining in two separate places. So you'll keep your followers from both pages. You'll keep the alumni tool and a lot of the goodness from the university page, but combined together into one more simplified experience. And here's a sneak peek at that. So along with this, it's getting a bit of an overhaul from a visual perspective. So I think it's just going to be a much better asset for you, for members that are visiting these pages. And you'll very shortly, if you don't already, get a bunch of information from your account executives or account managers with all the details about what this migration will look like, an FAQ, all that good stuff. And with this, a new streamlined admin experience as well, I should admit. So part of the simplification and reducing confusion isn't just for the members who doesn't understand when they go to a university page and when they go to a company page, but also really striving to make a much more elegant and simplified experience for those of you in the room who are maintaining these pages. Sponsored email self-service. So some of you may have tried out our sponsored updates self-service product, but we've gotten requests for a long time. When can we open that experience up for sponsored email? If you are the type of marketer that likes to be more hands-on and likes to be in the tool and optimizing on your own and not waiting for someone in LinkedIn to come in and do it on your behalf, then this hopefully is good news to you. This is being piloted right now, so this product is fully built out there just with a limited audience. So stay tuned for more information on. We're going to expand expand this out and allow anyone to come in and manage and deliver sponsored emails in a completely self-service environment. Programmatic display, so talked a little bit about display earlier and some of the challenges I personally have faced with it. But we know it's still an important vehicle for some marketers. And so we have opened up a new programmatic channel for maintaining and your display ad presence on LinkedIn. So again, revisiting here a bit, when we think about future investments and building roadmaps and strategies and products and assets on LinkedIn, we're really focusing on these 4 categories, how we can make sure that you're getting the most out of your investment of time and dollars on LinkedIn. We want to make sure that we can allow you to target and get to that exact audience that you're looking to reach. And if you're not, for any reason, proactively recommend ways to improve your targeting or what we think might work for you instead. Providing better measurement and optimization, and then simplifying your experience. So there's lots here, and I know that was a lot of information really quickly, but thank you for bearing with me. So that's what we had for you today. I hope I was able to at least a little bit effectively communicate, how important this community is to us at LinkedIn, how much we plan to invest in it now and in the future, and how seriously we're taking, our place in thinking about students and how they're going to choose and pick the colleges or universities that they're going to. And then when they're ready to get a job, what does that look like? And then they're ready to go back and continue investing in their career. How can we be a part of that all along the way? So thank you so much for your time. I believe we do have time for questions. Can I answer any questions? Thank you. No questions. Oh, there's one question.
Hi, so this might be something that you can't answer yet and that we have to ask our reps about, but with the merging of university and company pages, will there also be the opportunity to delete unnecessary ones? And I ask that because we're a university system, so we have 2 universities, and we created a university page initially when we can only have 1, and now we have 3.
Yes. Do you want to come up here and or you could shout it out from the audience as well? Any other questions? Well, in the back. It's programmatic display. So programmatic display is available right now. There may be some limitations as we're really just, we launched that over the summer and we'll be expanding it. But yes, ask your AE about it now to see if it'll meet your needs.
Hi, I just wanted to know, how does the audience matching work? How does that product work?
Yeah, so there's 2 flavors of audience matching. So the first is company data. So if you have a list of companies that you want to target, if employees at these 200 companies are the most likely to be interested in a program, and again, that list can be tens of thousands of companies as well. You simply put that list of companies into a CSV, upload it into Campaign Manager. We match that to LinkedIn company pages. We know the employees of all those companies, and then you can go from there. And you can limit the target as well. So if it's these 200 companies with people with these job titles or this level of seniority or those types of things, you can kind of mix and match that as much as you want to. Email will work exactly the same way. That's still coming, but you can upload a list of thousands or tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of email addresses. We will match that to LinkedIn company email addresses, create that targeting, and then you can layer onto that as well. So within those email addresses, if you even want to further target, you can as well. We won't share back with you specifically which matched and which didn't because there's some privacy concerns there, but we'll let you know what percentage the audience matched or what percentage the companies matched.
So if we upload, let's say, 1,000 email IDs, would you then come back and say that based on this, the profile, we can now target, let's say, another 100,000 people, let's say?
Oh, yes. So you can in addition to that, you can sort of do the lookalike on top of that. So if you just want to target those 1,000 emails that we matched, you can do that. But if you also wanted to say, give me people that look like these people on LinkedIn, you just check an extra box and you're off and running. Any other questions? Okay, cool. No problem.
Just occurred to me. I'm wondering if you can speak a little bit about how data that is gathered between verticals. So I'm thinking specifically about the education vertical right now, but then I'm also thinking about like your talent solutions vertical, where I can imagine I in particular work in the continuing education space, and so we will often find that somebody is looking for a job and might be looking for particular skills, very much like your acquisition speaks to. How do we leverage data across verticals in that way to better bring our products to the most relevant markets and vice versa?
Yeah, I mean, the good news is the data that lives underneath, our marketing solutions as well as our talent solutions business is the same, right? So Identity Superblock, ISB, you can tell an engineer named that product, is like basically the massive set of profile information that powers all of our products. Then layered on top of that is a data standardization. So basically, a giant team of data scientists make sure that you can standardize things like job titles globally and across industries. And it's actually a pretty big challenge that we've been at for a long time to make sure we have that clean data. The one thing that we are going to introduce specifically for folks who use our LTS products, like Recruiter, is a way to start, and this is actually coming, I believe, in the next 3 months, is you start in your Recruiter base and you kick off a campaign directly from there based on the information that you've gathered within Recruiter. So the types of prospects that you have for jobs or different things. So we're making that link between the two a little clearer and easier for the users. Right now, that's starting in Recruiter and pushing out to the marketing solutions business through Campaign Manager. But I think you'll start to see us, explore that further and make sure that we tell, sort of that entire story and make it as seamless as possible. But even today, the data under the scenes is all the same big, massive data set. Not sure if that totally answered your question, but if it didn't, feel free to come bug me over a drink.